That's called Visions of You, and that's one I played a good few times before on the programme. That's the first track on that album, which is called Jah Wobble's Invaders of the Heart. Sinead O'Connor, are you a member of Jah Wobble's Invaders of the Heart these days?
No, I wish I was.
Why? Are they brilliant?
They're very brilliant.
Who else is in the band? Let's see. Who
Jah Wobble.
That's
the name of the band. The album is called, what's it called?
Rising Above Bedlam.
Bedlam.
So when did you do this?
About 3 months ago or so.
And is that you're on about 2 or 3 numbers on this, aren't you?
Yeah, mostly John plays with them. John plays drums with them.
Yeah,
quite a lot of the time. So.
But it's not you won't be on stage with them at any stage or anything like that, no?
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Oh really? So there's a tour planned, is there?
Oh well, I'm not part of the band or anything, but if they wanted me to go on stage, I would. Is what I mean. I mean, someday, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, look. The first thing is the main reason you're here this week is to play the gig this weekend. Now, first of all, there was supposed to be 2 gigs. But there is only one, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're playing on Saturday. What are you playing at on Saturday? I mean, who are you with?
Well, God, with loads of people. With this band that Don's put together with people like Des out of the Golden Horde and Cattell. And who else? That guy Richie that used to play for Van Morrison. And people like
Richie
that.
Buckley. Yeah.
People like that and Donald.
Okay, well, what is the gig about next Saturday?
It's about raising money so that Nicky can take the government to court to get his pardon.
And it's called the Denning Demolition Gig.
Yeah.
So it's an anti-Lord Denning gig, first of all, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's anti the use of that law or whatever it is in Nicky's case, or in any case, yeah.
Because there's been a lot of confusion about what you were supposed to be doing this year. There was some other gig, you were supposed to be doing this about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
It didn't work out.
Why not?
Oh, this and that. But it's happening now, so.
Because, well, like, was there some confusion over the billing of you on the gig the first time around? Was there some?
I didn't really want it to be billed as Sinead O'Connor playing in Dublin without any mention of it being a benefit gig. In the first place, it was suggested that there wouldn't be any mention of that, which I didn't feel was honest. So.
And there was mention of it.
Well, there wasn't at the beginning. Later there was, and now there is certainly.
Do you feel you went into it a little bit blindly and that you should have been more aware of the fact that, look, I'm just one person playing on this gig and you can't just like advertise it as a Sinead O'Connor gig in some way?
Well, I just assumed that that's what would happen. I didn't think I would have to say that.
And were there other interested parties who decided, listen, we're putting Sinead on top of this bill because she said she's going to do it?
I don't really know, but I'm not going to kind of get into a sort of bitter discussion about it because it's not something I feel badly about, and also the thing is happening now, and that's all I'm really concerned about. Okay,
so this band you have together with Donald, have you been rehearsing with the band?
Yeah.
And have you played with Donald before?
No, I think I played with him once before, but no.
Because this isn't any sort of a connection, or it isn't arising from the bringing it all back home thingamy bob.
No.
Because I know you weren't involved in that as such, but is it something like that, sort of like that you've been sort of drafted into a Donald Lundy band in that way?
No, I mean it's an honour for me to be, in it. I wouldn't look at it as something I was drafted into at all, and I don't think it's anything to do with the bringing it all back home thing. No, it's just people playing together.
And have you followed the Nicky Kelly case down through the years?
No, I don't know anything about Nicky Kelly. I'm singing because he asked me to sing to make some money for him, but I don't know anything about him, and I'm not going to kind of talk about him because I know nothing about him.
Right. Okay, well then there was an attack today from an Ulster MP called the Reverend William McRae, and there's a quote here. He says, "Sinead is foolish for getting involved in this insult to Lord Denning. The day that she has contributed to society anything like what he has contributed, then perhaps she may have the right to talk about him." What do you think of that?
Which MP is it?
A guy called the Reverend William McRae.
Oh, right. Well, I don't know. I've never met the man, and he's never met me, so obviously that's one thing. The other thing is that I don't see what good Lord Denning has done by saying that it's better to have any Irish person in prison for a terrorist crime than to have no one in prison for it. What that means is that any of us can be locked up and it won't matter a shred, and we'll spend 15 or 16 years in prison like the Birmingham Six did, or, So obviously I would disagree with him. So would one of the reasons that you would do this gig on Saturday is because you look upon the man as being A, wrong, and B, like as some people have said, a senile old fool? Well, he's obviously a senile old fool, but the reason I'm doing the gig is because I like to sing, and Nicky asked me to do it, and I'm doing it as a favour for him. I'm not, after that I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just thinking about singing.
Okay, well, what else have you been doing over the last year? Because like we've heard bits and pieces in the papers about you, like various. They've usually been quotes that have been attributed to you, that like when you're getting yourself into a bit of trouble. I mean, apart from that, what? Well, like for instance, we'll try one then. You were talking to MTV earlier this year, and you went on about the Gulf War, and you said the reason why you didn't want to accept any awards or get involved in any more award ceremonies, having incidentally only 4 months before that taken all the MTV awards, say around last October, November, about a year ago, that by the time the Gulf War started, you realised that Saddam Hussein is a bad person, but America and England are just as bad, say, to get involved because like they're getting involved for materialist reasons or whatever. Now, what kind of trouble did that cause when you said all those things?
Oh, immense trouble, obviously, immense trouble. I mean, it caused immense trouble here too, didn't it?
Well, not so much immense trouble necessarily, but what about America? I mean, was there any sort of banning of anything, or let's take her off this? Or
oh yeah, I mean, there wasn't, there was war, yeah.
There was war. Okay, and then during the interview with MTV, you also said things like that money is the root of all evil, and that's really what the root of the Gulf War is, etc. And it's nothing necessarily to do with one person, Saddam Hussein. So what do you think about the war, the way it happened, and what happened, and by the end of it, etc., and all the way through? Because this was just while the war was starting.
I don't think of the war as being a separate incident necessarily to anything else that I see in one 24-hour period. The fact is that the whole world revolves around money, and as a consequence of that, 40,000 children starve to death every day in the world because some of us want money so badly that we're prepared to do anything in order to get it. And as far as I was concerned, and am still concerned, the music business can be looked upon as a microcosm for the general macrocosm of what's going on in the whole world. The war was just a manifestation of our greed. It didn't happen because anybody cared about the people of Kuwait. If that was true, then the Kurdish people wouldn't have been left for so long in the state that they were in. It wouldn't be allowed to happen that children starved to death in the world. It wouldn't be allowed to happen that children were abused in the world. So I don't accept that kind of thing happened because anybody cared about money. And as far as I was concerned, an awards ceremony in the music business where musicians would be honoured because of their material success rather than their musical ability would be something that encouraged the whole desire for material goods, and that wasn't something I wanted anything to do with.
Well, even after you'd said that in terms of MTV in the States, you did come to Dublin to accept the Irma Award. Now, why the change of heart, or what's so different? Well,
I was put under a lot of pressure to come, to tell you the truth. That it was Irish people and that they'd be very upset and all that stuff. But at the same time, I did it more as a personal thing. First of all, because the money was being given to the ISPCC. Secondly, because I had promised a friend of mine that I would be there anyway, you know what I mean? And I didn't want her or her family to be upset. But I'd say largely because I was put under a lot of pressure to come.
Okay, well now you just said there that you were talking about the 40,000 children, and like you said that in that MTV interview, and very eloquently you stated that everything ultimately comes back to just how we treat our children.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the desire for money was caused in people in the first place because of an emptiness which was put there by the fact that they were abused when they were children. If you look throughout history, you can see every serial killer that there's ever been has been abused as a child. Adolf Hitler was abused as a child. Saddam Hussein was abused as a child. The emptiness that some people have been left with, they decided to fill by achieving materially at any cost.
Because there's been a lot of talk this year on that level from you personally about your own personal life, talking about your mother. Did you find that some sort of exorcism for you, that you could get this out into the open where people have been sort of vaguely hinting at it before?
Yeah, definitely it's important for me to get it out into the open for whatever reason, I don't know, but I find that it is important. And the other thing, which is just as important, is the fact that I know for a fact, and so do you, I'm sure, that children are being abused all over the place, that it's happening to people right now. Probably people who are listening to this are being abused in some way by their parents. And if I know that if when it was happening to me, I had heard somebody on the radio or read somebody in the paper talking about it and saying, it'll be all right, there's a way out, I understand what you're going through, then that would have helped me an awful lot, So
well, was it extremely painful for you to have to get this out into the open, or was it a good thing in the end?
It was a good thing. I mean, it was something that I I almost couldn't stop myself from doing, do you know what I mean? I just, it had to be done. It caused a lot of problems, obviously within my family and things like that, but in the long run I think it's been good because it's got things out into the open that weren't in the open, and it was definitely something I needed to do. But secondly, as I said, it's important to continue doing no matter what happens, because it's happening still to millions of people. It's not an unreality. It's not something that's removed and far away like the Gulf War. It's something that's happening in people's sitting rooms every day.
Okay, well, do you think it's trivial for me to ask on this level that, for instance, you grew up in South County Dublin in a middle class environment, just more or less the same as me, 5 miles away from me, maybe even less, and that my life was probably different than your life, but by the same token, that because you were able to now say this, and because this has now come out into the open, do you think it's a bit unfair maybe to the other members of your family and your father?
I can see why it upsets them, yeah, and I've talked to them about it a lot, and they have been upset. Not so much by the fact that I talk about it, but by the way the media handles it and makes it into some huge kind of sordid story and exaggerates it and things like that. I think they understand my reasons for talking about it, although sometimes they would rather I didn't, necessarily be so personal about it, because it means that attention is drawn to them. But that's something that we'll work out between us, and that'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Because there's one other thing that when you went to play with Peter Gabriel and a few others in Chile, I get the impression that that incident, or the bringing out into the open of child abuse for yourself personally, was an important point for you this year. I get the impression that just before that, about a year ago, it was also very important for you when you went to Chile and saw those who had suffered under the Pinochet regime in terms of the mothers of the disappeared. What did that actually mean to you when you met those people?
I didn't really understand what it meant to me as such. I didn't really know that much about it. You know what I mean? Like, I only kind of read about it on the way there. I didn't, I don't study those kind of things, and I don't really know that much about them. What I was affected by was the women, and how, the bits that I'd heard of things that had happened to them, and I'd seen little videos and stuff when I got there of how they handled it, and how, even though, really awful things had happened to them, that they weren't hateful, and that they weren't vicious or violent about it, but that there was no way they were going to give up fighting until they got what they wanted and what was their right, even if it meant that they were going to be killed. So I was quite affected by that, just by the kind of aura that was coming off those women.
And is there an aura that comes off those women that even in the society in which they live, the males in the society look upon those women much stronger and with much more awe and much more goodness than, say, males in other societies who don't have, say, a mothers of the disappeared within their ranks?
I don't know. I wouldn't have had enough contact with the men actually to tell.
Okay. All right, well then, just one last thing on that then. Do you think that you have some sort of that you have to be on some sort of a crusade, or to mention all this because of the fact that you have been, if you like, this is a bizarre choice of phrase, that you were lucky to have seen all this from first-hand experience, and like we haven't, we can only read it in the newspapers? You mean that you should talk out about it, you should say something about it, because you were there, about Chile and about the mothers of the disappeared?
Well, no, I don't think I've been on any kind of crusade about
Chile. No, I don't mean crusade. I didn't really mean that word.
No, this is what I think, is that people ask me to get involved in things like that because I might pull a crowd the same as the other people that they involve, and I go there because I've been asked to go there, and I learn things, and those are things that I learn, by the way, privately for myself. Sinead O'Connor only goes there to sing. She doesn't go there to kind of pick up information and then go on any kind of political thing, because that's not what she's about. If you know what I mean, like that stuff, it's personal, the stuff that I learned, you know what I mean? Okay, well, that, like, to go back then to what you're doing next Saturday, I mean, like, in one way I would think it's a bit naive of you in some ways to think that, if, for instance, if musically, or if in terms of pulling a crowd, to use your phrase, Madonna is here, Janet Jackson's there, they always say Sinead is in that top three, that you were in that top three. If that is the case, were you not a bit naive with this first part of the Nicky Kelly thing some months back, to think that like everything would be okay and that you would just be part of a band that somebody was obviously going to upset? Yeah, it was naive of me, but I'm continually naive. I continually forget that I'm seen as a pop star, Sinead O'Connor, the pop star. I continually forget that I'm not necessarily seen as an ordinary person. Yeah, so.
And
you know.
what about when you meet a pop star? I mean, there was a story around that time too when you met Bob Dylan in Amsterdam or something like that. And like that was sort of, if not necessarily a hero, but somebody who you, and I'll quote this one, said something along the lines of that every time he wrote a song, you thought he was right there for you when you were growing up almost. And you meet this guy. Now you were treating him the way some people would treat you.
No, because you don't. I mean, you know, you can't say I was treating him in any way purely by meeting him. I mean, you don't know how I conducted a conversation with him or any of that kind of thing. I didn't go in there and fawn all over him, you know what I mean? He's just a person, so I went in and said hi.
Yeah, but you did freak out a bit. I mean, as you said yourself,
in my head I freaked out, but I didn't flip out in front of him.
Oh, right, okay.
You know,
okay.
In my head, of course I flipped out, but I can see, even though I'm flipping out, that of course he's a person.
Okay, so that phrase you used...
That's why I like him so much. Why, you know when you listen to a Bob Dylan song that the guy's a human being. It's not the same as, you know, anyone else.
What about Ice-T, who wouldn't be as much of a legend, say, but he would be... Oh, yeah, wait a minute now, hold on, he can't be, because a legend like means time, right? Now, okay, Bob Dylan is 30 years, Ice-T is only a few years, right? Now, okay, Ice-T would be right up there and probably further than Bob Dylan in your estimation, right?
Well,
would you have the same freak-out scene in your head?
Oh, I was shaking when I met Ice-T. I shook, I couldn't control myself. I mean, that was totally different. I wanted to cry when I met Bob Dylan, but I couldn't stop shaking when I met Ice-T. And I couldn't stop myself from telling him how completely brilliant he was. Where normally you wouldn't dare say a thing like that because it'd just be too embarrassing for words. I just couldn't. I didn't care what he thought of me, you know.
Where do you live these days, Sinead?
I'm living in London at the moment.
You're back in London?
Yeah.
Because there was a time there around last December or so when you said LA is the place for me and I'm really getting into this LA business and all that.
I was full of shit.
What? You said it, not me. Now wait a minute. I mean, there's no harm in saying LA is great. What's wrong with that?
Well, I saw through the illusion. It's all an illusion. It's all a beautiful illusion, but an illusion
nonetheless.
It's a desert, not a place I'd like to spend any time in.
But you said that you were living in this house and you can be within 5 minutes you can be down the country.
Yeah. I know. But you know, I said, you know, how many times have you said you loved some complete wagon too? How many, you know? Very seldom.
Well,
you know, how many times have you said, "Oh, I'm going to give up smoking," or, you know?
Right. Yeah. One of the things I read in the paper recently was that you're getting a divorce. Is that right?
I'm not going to talk about that.
You're not going to talk about that.
No.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we talk about something else then. Let's talk about music. We just played Jah Wobble, the album that you're on there, right? You've also got a track on the Elton John tribute album, which I have here in front of me, 2 rooms, celebrating the songs of Elton John and Bernie Taupin. What was that all about?
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that. Really what was that all about?
I really, you know...
I mean, there's George Michael, Phil Collins, Bruce Hornsby, Rod Stewart, Sinead O'Connor. What are you doing on this here?
I don't really know. I mean, it's nice to sing a song and all that stuff, but, you know... I didn't know at the time that it was going to be such a hugely commercial kind of self-indulgent thing. You know what I mean? So
and that's what it is, yeah?
Well, that's what I think. That's how I feel about it, you know. I mean, call me cynical. But, you know, the book, the album, the T-shirts, the TV special, you know what I mean? It's a bit much. I mean, they're not even dead yet, you know? It's like a bit much.
Freddie Mercury is dead. What did you feel when you heard the news about that? Did you know the music, or I mean,
yeah.
I mean, obviously you knew it, but I mean, did you like it, or?
Oh yeah, God, Bohemian Rhapsody, absolutely. Yeah, I love Freddie Mercury. I love him.
Did you ever meet him?
Expect I will one day, though.
Okay, you expect you will one day. Well, just to get back to the music once again, there's this Malcolm McLaren TV programme, right, for Christmas Day. What's that about?
It's about the history of Oxford Street.
The history of Oxford Street in London?
The ghosts of Oxford Street, and it's all, you know, about the people that set up Oxford Street and the people that are kind of associated with its history. And it has all famous people singing songs in it.
I don't necessarily get this. Wait a minute, what's Silent Night got to do with Oxford Street?
Well, it's a Christmas thing, so we were all singing carols.
Of course, it's on Christmas Day. I forgot. Sorry. Oh yeah, fair enough. Okay.
It's November now.
Okay. Well, this is your new single. I don't think anybody's ever heard this yet. It's actually released tomorrow, is it? Or something?
When it's very sinister of her.
It's very sinister, is it? Okay. Do you know something funny about this? Actually, that Sean was just telling me a few minutes ago that I completely forgot about. There was a version of this released last year, or the year before, in Irish by Enya. Did you ever hear that?
Oh really?
Yeah.
No.
Silent Night. Ihe Kuhn, it must be. Yeah.
No,
did you never hear that? Because Enya was on your first album. I just thought I'd remind you about that.
Yeah, I know that.
Which a lot of people don't know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I
wasn't there, but I spoke to her on the phone.
Oh, you weren't there, were you not?
No. Well, she lives in Dublin, see, and I live in London.
Oh, right. That's as good a reason as any. Okay, well, we played the song. This is Silent Night, and this is the brand new single from Sinead O'Connor. Silent Night is the title, and that's the new single from... Oops, wrong microphone. That's the new single from Sinead O'Connor, and Sinead is here with us on the programme now. She's playing the gig next Saturday at the Stadium in Dublin, along with, incidentally... Hold on a second till I get this right again. It says other guests. I'm not sure who the other guests are, but there's The Pale and The Stunning and Luca Bloom. And you're actually singing with the Donald Lunny Band. It's not as though you're on stage by yourself. Or
no, with them. There's supposed to be an Emotional Fish as well, which I hope they're going to show up.
Well, an Emotional Fish are also playing later on that night, 'cause the World AIDS Day benefit is on at the Olympia with loads of bands, and they've been added to that one as well. But that's late night, I think, after your one. So maybe they will. So if an Emotional Fish are listening, they're to play the gig this coming Saturday night at the Stadium as well. Okay. Because why?
We have the woman of his dreams.
Who is the woman of his dreams?
We know that. We're only joking. We're not deadly serious.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll say nothing. So listen, this gig on Saturday then, after that what are you going to do? Are you going back to London?
Going to get drunk.
Yeah, well, that's a Saturday night, but I mean after that.
Oh, I'm going home.
You're going home to London. So what happens? I mean, it's long enough since I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. So are you getting down for a third Sinead O'Connor album?
No, I'm having a break.
You're having a break?
Having a Kit Kat.
You're having a Kit Kat. So have you not had a break in some ways from Sinead O'Connor in the last year?
Well, no. I mean, it's never really a break. Yeah.
It's ongoing all the time, is it, Sinead?
It's kind of ongoing.
Well, then have you no plans at all for a third album?
Not at the moment. I mean, I know I will make another album at some stage in my life, but I have no idea when. I'm not really anxious about it.
Have you found the last year really, really strange because of the fact that, like, for instance, just take the single Nothing Compares to You. Had you any conception about what that would do and what it would do to you?
No, I didn't.
And was it really strange?
It was very strange. It is very strange.
It's still very strange.
It has its high points, and it sure enough has its low points.
Well, what are the major low points? Is it when you say something and people start giving out about every second thing you say, or is it just life itself?
No, I think it's being used by people, basically. Yeah, being used by people. That's the lowest point for me.
Is there a big decision about where you are and where you live in terms of your son?
Yeah, I mean that I live basically near John. But not in terms of being Sinead O'Connor, no. Because, like, I mean, you might have stayed in LA. I mean, there's a chance you would have. Well, actually, it was a problem for Jake in LA because they're so like that they did kind of see him as the son of a pop star, you know, and abuse him accordingly. Yeah, he was definitely abused there. As the son of a celebrity? Yeah, you know, his teacher called me into school and told me because he was misbehaving, he's like 3 years of age, and her son is a complete, you know, like needed a good foot up his arse, if ever a kid did, you know. She called me in and said that he couldn't expect to get the same kind of attention that I get, you know, because I'm a pop star, and just because he's my son doesn't mean that he can go around thinking that he's going to be treated in any special way, you know what I mean? Well, what about then when you were in LA? Did you get over a lot of the bit about, like, people like staring at you all the time, and that you're immediately recognisable, obviously with the way you look, if nothing else? I don't mind people looking at me, you know, as long as I'm not eating my dinner. I don't mind that. I just don't like people. I don't really mind anything. I can put up with anything except being used. Can't put up with that. Well, have you got strong people around you now, or are there people who would still like use or abuse? Oh, there are always people who'll use and abuse, always, and you know, they're always, you know, dying to be your best friend. And how's Steve getting on these days? He's great. Because the last time I met Steve was not a good situation. In fact, it was one of the last times I met you, I think. Do you remember that time when I was standing there in what's the place called? Wherever we did what was the place where we did the Friday at the Dome? What was that place called? The National in Kilburn, yeah. And I was just about to introduce this band. You came over and said hello or something. You stand there, and I realised, of course, it was Carl, because you know Carl well. Carl Wallinger, World Party. And there was a little bit of a contretemps after that, a little bit of a problem. Yeah, because they messed up Carl's microphone. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't mess up Carl's microphone. I had nothing to do with the sound. And Steve finally goes, "What the hell are you guys playing at?" I said, "It's nothing to do with me. I didn't even know this happened until I saw the thing later." Oh, well. Was he really narked, was he? I don't know, it's nothing to do with me. But you were there. Well, I don't get involved though in his business. What's World Party doing these days? Have you seen Carl lately? I've seen him, yeah. He's writing, doing another album.
Okay, all right. What? Just one thing about like the Freddie Mercury thing that I was really sort of like thought was really disgraceful was the way that the tabloid press hounded him for about 2 years as he sort of snuck out the back of his house to rush off to see some other doctor in some hospital, as if we all had a right to know this part of his life. Now you've seen that side of it, because when we were talking about the Saddam Hussein thing earlier on, yeah, the British tabloid press picked up on something from you, and there was this big thing about she-devil. Now, I mean, like, how bad was that for you to have read something like that?
How bad? It wasn't upsetting. It was, I don't know. I read things that were worse. I mean, it was pretty bad. You know what I mean? But it had a funny side to it. Do you know what I mean? Like people like Edwina Curry, like her picture, and then a little box underneath saying she's very silly, you know, about me and things like that. And Phil Collins, you know, all that kind of stuff. It was actually quite funny. The Irish press were much more abusive and much more upsetting.
On what level?
At that time, just the way they went on about the whole thing and made no effort to understand what was going on at all, and in fact made real idiots out of themselves, you know, because they didn't get the message at all, and they were, you know, very abusive. They did things like interview a cab driver that picked me up in the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning after I'd flown for like 20 hours to get there, and sat in Heathrow like for until 4 o'clock in the morning with my son on an airplane. This guy was in the paper, you know, complaining because my dress was mangy, you know, and I didn't leave him a big enough tip. And it wasn't even me that paid for it, it was Ciara. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The fact that they go around looking for somebody like that to bitch and complain, you know. Just, you know, having their phone-ins in the papers, you know, like if you think Sinead O'Connor is a tantrum-throwing bitch, phone this number. And if you think, you know, we needn't crucify her, phone this number. You know, just that kind of thing. You know.
Okay, well, if it wasn't massively upsetting on one level, you could almost see the humour in it.
Well, that was massively upsetting.
Yeah, well, obviously that was. But
my
I mean,
own people, you know, I mean, hey.
Wait a minute now, your own people. Do you look upon the Irish people necessarily as your own people? I thought you said
who else would I look on as being my people?
I've no idea. Maybe you've adopted an LA or a London. I've no idea.
I'm an Irish woman. I and I.
Alright, okay. Alright, I'll tell you what, we're going to play the B-side of the single, which is a song that I saw you perform once with Christy Moore at a Nelson Mandela gig at the Olympia in Dublin. And who's on this song with you here?
I've no idea. I haven't heard it since I did it.
But do you not have a band in the studio with you or anything like that, no?
No, it's a live. It's off a gig.
Oh, it's live off a gig, because I just got my hands on this about 10 minutes ago. Okay, well, we'll play it then. This is
I think
Irish.
I sang it by myself, actually.
Did you? Okay, well, we're about to find out.
Don't play it
directly. What? Don't play it. Listen, Sinead, wait a minute. I remember, I think it was the first radio interview. In fact, it might have even been the first interview you ever did, I think. You came in here one night, right? You were here with Faulkner one night. And it was around the time of the first album, The Lion and the Cobra. It was before that was released. And you came in for an interview on this very programme. And I had nothing to play because I didn't have any records. So I took out the what do you call it, captive thing, which was Heroin, the song with the Edge, and you sort of said, no, listen, if you play that, I'm getting out of here.
No, it was just I was being a bitch.
You were being a bitch. Alright, okay, I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll take a break and we'll play the song anyway, whether you like it or not. I'm going to play it. Irish Ways and Irish Laws from Sinead O'Connor, the B-side of the new single Silent Night after this.
Christy Moore, turn your radio off.
Being unemployed, feeling that you're worthless, that you've literally no value, that's on top of worrying over your kids, seeing herself down, like hiding it. I personally find it hard to take help, but the Vincent de Paul, they don't let you forget you're still a person.
We do what we can only because you send what you can. For God's sake, send a little to Box 1234 Dublin. It helps a lot.
We Will Rock You, the definitive rock album from Queen to Quo.
Whatever you want, whatever you like.
Deep Purple, White Snake, Free, Rainbow, Finn, Lizzy.
Boys are back in town, boys are back in town. Nothing yet.
Bachman Turner Overdrive, Boston, Alice Cooper, Rainbow, Meatloaf. 30 rock classics. We Will Rock You from Dino.
The Brawn Independent Styler is for you.
Danielle,
Caroline,
Christine,
Heather,
Shirley.
Whatever your style,
Short.
Red and wavy.
Springy.
Straight shoulder length.
Ultra curly.
cordless, the Braun Independent heats up fast, so wherever you are,
In the office. Bedroom.
Bathroom. Paris. Lying on the beach.
and whenever it is,
Really early.
3:05. In the afternoon.
Before the show.
Friday. Rush hour.
you can keep your hair looking
Absolutely fantastic.
Glamorous.
Sophisticated, classy, pretty good. And very smart. Wild.
with a range of
Independent cordless gas curlers from
Braun. It's for you.
Whoever you are.
This is
Y'all ready for this?
the Best of Dance 91. 32 of the hottest club hits from the whole year.
Too sexy for my shirt.
The Best of Dance 91. Let the music speak for itself.
Over and out.
Once upon a time there were Irish ways and Irish laws, villages of Irish blood, waking to the morning, waking to the morning. Then the Vikings came around, turned us up and turned us down, started building boats and towns. They tried to change our living, trying to change our living. Cromwell and his soldiers came, started centuries of shame, but they could not make us turn. We are a river flowing, we're a river flowing. Again the soldiers came, burned our house and stole our grain, shot the farmers in their fields, working for a living, working for a living. 800 years we have been down, the secret of the water sound has kept the spirit of the man above the painted sand, above the painted sand. Today the struggle carries on. I wonder will I live so long to see the gates being opened up to a people and their freedom, and people and their freedom. Once upon a time there was Irish ways and Irish laws, villages of Irish blood, waking to the morning, waking to the morning.
What you say there, Sinead? Oh yeah, really? I should have turned the microphone up for that. That's John Gibbs wrote the song Irish Ways and Irish Laws, live in Holland. Sinead O'Connor, the B-side of the new single Silent Night.
Sorry, we needed one in a hurry.
You needed one in a hurry, and that's fair enough. Okay, you don't like that, I take it, Sinead?
No, I really think I could have sung it better.
You could have sang it better. Well, it was
a bad
live. You know, you can't necessarily just grab the best all the time.
I wasn't feeling well.
Incidentally, Aidan Cosgrave, the manager
Coming
of An
Saturday.
Emotion of Fish, rang in to say that the band will not be doing the World AIDS
can't
benefit
believe
gig. But if you would like to go to the World AIDS benefit gig, they were saying that they could certainly fit
Well,
you in somewhere.
I think we're all probably going to go down there afterwards.
Right,
I
okay.
don't know though.
But the gig that you are doing is the Denning Demolition gig. There were supposed to be 2, Friday and Saturday, but it's one gig. It's Saturday night at the Stadium in Dublin, and it's Luca Bloom, The Stunning, The Pale and others, and also Sinead O'Connor and Donal Lunny Band. It's just as a matter of interest, how many songs do you think you're going to be doing with the Donal Lunny Band?
About 10 or 12.
Oh, that many, yeah. And are there any Sinead O'Connor songs in that?
Yeah, but there's some other ones that are going to be much better.
So the ones that
some
are going-
jazz songs, things like Fly Me to the Moon, or songs like that.
Fair enough. What about the one that you did for the AIDS gig last year? Do you ever perform that song?
Oh yeah, we're going
which
to do
isn't
that too.
You Do Something to Me?
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Right. Okay, so what are your plans then, if not for Sinead O'Connor, what are your plans for just as a person for the next few months in terms of, say, guesting on other things?
God, I don't know. I mean, nobody's asked me, so I have to see what happens.
But you're open to offers.
Oh, I'm always open to offers.
And the address is now Sinead O'Connor
Certain
London, not
offers.
Sinead O'Connor LA.
Just Sinead O'Connor. They'll get it to me.
Okay, they'll get it to you. Alright, listen Sinead, thanks very much for dropping in tonight. Just once again, the gig is on Saturday, the Denning Demolition gig with lots of bands, and you'll be playing with the Donal Lunny Band.
Be there or be square.
Be there or be square. Alright, thanks very much Sinead. I'm going to go out with a little bit of this music here, which is again from the Jah Wobble album, which you're on as well. Not going to get too much of this in. Thanks Sinead, see ya.
Nighty, nighty.
I never ever thought I'd say these words that I say to you. A rhapsody in blue. Your warm sensual caress leads me heavenly. Such serenity. Clean your mind, clean your body, clean your soul in preparation to receive the Holy Spirit. Lying back in ecstasy, dreams are made of this pure bliss. You gave me eyes to see ultimate reality, sweet divinity, femininity, sensuality, ecstasy.
And just as you can get to hear her, we have to sign off on that one. Sweet Divinity is the title. That's from Rising Above Bedlam, the second one from that tonight. Jah Wobble's Invaders of the Heart. Thanks to Sinead O'Connor for dropping in to say to us hello live on the programme tonight. Back again tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Remember, Larry's on 8 to 9 on TV and radio. And Jerry will take it through now till 1. Good luck. See you tomorrow. Thanks.
I find it difficult to admit to being lonely. Of course, not everyone feels comfortable with old people. But you do miss someone to talk to. Really, all you need to know is that someone cares. In my case, it's the Vincent de Paul.
We do what we can only because you send what you can. For God's sake, send a little to Box 1234 Dublin. It helps a lot.
Now, that's worth, let me see, say 200, give or take 10, maybe 15. So 215 plus 150 for the crystal on this ghastly piece. Is it 175 or 185? Oh, no.
Darling, is that valuation finished?
225 plus 75.
At Royal Insurance, we do things properly. With Home Shield Plus, there's no need for calculations because we cover contents up to £30,000. Talk to Royal Insurance or to your insurance advisor.
What was that noise, darling?
I stepped on the calculator, darling.
Look after yourself properly with Royal Insurance.
Nationwide 2FM.
It's 10 o'clock, news with Rachel English. The 2 bags of chemicals from the MV Kilkenny washed up on Dollymount Strand in Dublin today were part of a container listed as furniture on the ship's cargo list, the company has disclosed tonight. According to B&I, the bags contained an acid which is only dangerous if handled. However, Dollymount was closed to the public for several days as a precautionary for several hours as a precautionary measure while they were removed. A spokesman for the company said it's possible that some of the other containers on the Kilkenny, badly damaged in a collision with another vessel last Thursday, contain cargo different to that listed. He said they rely totally on the honesty of the shipping agent and an inquiry into the misrepresentation will be carried out. 40 of the 123 containers on board the ship have now been recovered. The Department of the Marine tonight renewed its warning to people to avoid any material washed ashore. Fine Gael leader John Bruton has said there is a clear and probably irreversible view among the general public that Fianna Fáil should not lead the formation of the next government. Speaking in County Meath tonight, Mr Bruton said the present economic difficulties are no more than a symptom of the passive approach to political leadership adopted by Fianna Fáil in recent years. And he said Fine Gael will insist on an overall limit on the burden of taxation and on borrowing in the next budget. The spokeswoman for the Palestinian delegation to the Middle East peace talks, Hanan Ashrawi, says it has agreed in principle to attend the next stage in Washington on the 4th of December. Meanwhile, the United States has dismissed complaints by Israel that it was not thoroughly consulted before invitations were sent out to the second stage of the conference. A State Department spokeswoman said the US was puzzled by the claims. Neither the Palestinian or Israeli delegations have yet formally responded to the invitation to attend the talks, even though today had been set as the deadline for replies. Members of Queen say they're planning a celebration of Freddie Mercury's life. The singer died last night, just a day after admitting he had AIDS. The remaining group members said tonight they felt overwhelming grief at his death, but as soon as they're able to, they will celebrate his life in the style to which he was accustomed. It's thought that Mercury has left a large part of his estimated £25 million fortune to AIDS research. The weather, showers tonight in northern and western areas. The rest of the country will be mostly dry, but with some mist or fog in places later. Strong winds will moderate slowly. Lowest temperatures overnight 5 to 8 Celsius. That's it. There'll be news again at 11.